Welcome to M&G Agency Live, your go-to podcast for creativity, insights, and now a spotlight on the amazing businesses we work with.
This series is all about celebrating the people behind the brands, diving into their stories, achievements, and what makes them tick.
From the inspiring journeys to future plans, we'll be shining a light on the local businesses driving our community.
So, whether you're here for marketing tips, entrepreneurial insights, or just curious about what goes on in the world of business, you're in the right place.
Shall we get into it then?
Oh, heck yes. Welcome back to another episode of M&G Agency Life Meet the Client. Here we go with episode 9. Last time we spoke to the incredible Michelle Forth-Burnett from Safety Scotland.
It was incredible. I can't believe this is episode 9. What have you been doing since episode 8, Amy? What's been going on in your life?
Not very much, to be honest, Pete. I'm just reveling in the fandom that I've got from this podcast. So.
Oh, you know what? It's everywhere we go. People recognise you these days.
They do. It's like, oh, is that your voice from the famous podcast? I'm like, well, what can I say? Yeah, of course it is.
Well, let's hopefully not let that get to your head too much today. We're going to crack on. Today, we are going to be diving into the world of offshore well intervention with Bronson Larkins from Wellvene. Now, Wellvene has built a reputation for innovation and well completion and intervention, providing bespoke solutions that make operations safer and more efficient. Bronson, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you on this fine day?
I'm very good, thank you, yes.
Good, glad to hear it. So I guess, to start off, for those who might not know, tell us a little bit about Wellvene and what you guys do.
So Wellvene is a design, engineering and manufacturing company. We formed the company back in 2017 because we saw a gap in the market for a responsive engineering company. You know, we pride ourselves in the sense that the larger companies, where they take months to deliver equipment, we can do it in weeks. And where they take weeks, we can do it in days. You know, we are that kind of sort of go-to company if you need something in a very kind of short time frame. So, so we design, manufacture, we qualify equipment for well intervention, well completion, well integrity operations.
And I imagine being in Aberdeen, this landscape is very competitive.
Very competitive, yes. So we are very much aware of that. And so when we kicked off in 2017, to be honest with you, the UK wasn't really our focus. As much as it was on our doorstep, we knew it was a competitive market. So we felt that we had to focus our attention elsewhere. And that's exactly what we did. And we have quite a strong presence in Norway, Middle East, Malaysia, Australia. So yeah.
I'm excited to hear more today.
Yeah, exactly. But before we get there, let's start at the beginning. What led you to where you are today, and can you talk us through some of your career highlights?
Okay, so I started in the oil industry back in 1994, so 31 years this year. So it's certainly been a long time in the industry now.
Yeah.
But I absolutely enjoy it, and I still love it as much today as I did back then. So I feel very fortunate. When I started offshore when I was 18 years old, I've been fortunate in the sense that I've seen it from both the offshore and the onshore perspective.
Right.
You know? And I've also had the pleasure of working for both operators and service companies. So I feel like I've had kind of good rounded view of what the wells industry is offshore, you know. So in terms of highlights, well, there's been so many, you know. Certainly starting Wellvene was a highlight in 2017. But one of the big highlights for me in my career was I worked for a major operator in the North Sea. I worked for them for over 10 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed every day with that. Prior to that, I had 14 years offshore, and before I took an onshore job, and again, 14 years offshore, and had some fantastic times and some great memories from that time in my
bet
career.
There's a lot of stories from working offshore.
Oh yeah, you certainly meet some characters, that's for sure. Yes, a lot of characters. Yeah.
So tell us, how did Wellvene come about, and well, what do you feel it brings to the industry?
You know, so back in 2014, I was working for a major operator in the North Sea. Thoroughly enjoyed my job, but I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. I've always had a keen interest in new tools, new technologies. I'm not a design engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I know technology. I know the industry are working. And like I says, I've had the pleasure of seeing it from both sides, offshore, onshore, operator, service companies. Yeah. So I felt that really positioned me well to understand the challenges within the industry, within the wells industry, that is, the challenges that the operators have and the service companies have, etc. So I left the operator. I won't mention the company name. I left the operator in 2014. I joined a small engineering company. I had 2 years there, and I realised, you know what, if I really want to make an impact and bring to life the tools and the ideas that are going on in my head, I had to go and do it alone. So I reached out to 3 partners. I've got 3 amazing business partners. I reached out to them and asked if they were interested in forming a company, and every one of them says yes. So that's what we did.
Wow,
it sounds easy.
Yeah,
it's as easy as that. Yeah, absolutely.
So what about the early days? What are some of the biggest challenges you faced starting up?
Yeah, we've had quite a few challenges along the way. You know, starting a business is not easy. As easy as you said it was a minute ago, it's certainly not easy, you know, and it's been a huge learning curve for me, you know. Working with 3 amazing partners is key, you know, getting the foundation to your business, having a plan, knowing what you're looking to achieve in the market that you're going into, but having the right people around you, for me, is absolutely key. We don't have investors. We don't have a venture capitalist backing us, you know. So I've always said, and I say at work a lot, is if I look over my shoulder and I've got my 3 business partners behind me, which is fantastic, and we've got each other's backs, but I'm like, guys, if we get this wrong, there's no one to turn to. So it makes you super, super focused, you know, and we are.
Yeah, I bet.
Even when I look back in 2017 and even how we started the business, I don't want to say we were naive, but there was an element of that in there, you know. We started with quite a small budget, and a very small budget. And it was almost, what I say, hand to mouth for the first couple of years. You know, we would win a bit of work, we'd win a project, we would sort of pay to manufacture the equipment, and then we would take what profit we made from that, and it was continuously reinvesting that into the business. And even today, we're still reinvesting into the business always, you know. So much so that when we look back at the pot that we started with, if you will, we probably never took a wage out of the business for the first 18 months, you know. I don't mind telling you, I actually had to sell my house. It was a conscious decision.
Okay.
But I says to my wife one day, I says, look, you don't mind selling the house? There's some funds in there that
I
mind.
How did your wife react to that?
She was amazing. You know, we've been together for just shy of 30 years, you know. So, she knows me. She's got my back always, and she believes in me. She believed that we would make it work, you know. Don't get me wrong, I had to tell her what the plan was and what we were going after and what we were looking to achieve. So I says to her, says, look, we need the money to get by, you know, so let's sell the house. We can access the funds that we had tied up in the house, and that kind of ticked us over for the 18 months. I says to her, I says, look, we'll rent a house for a year and then we'll get back on the property market. Well, that year turned into 4 years because of the whole pandemic and everything that went with that. So, but happy to say that we bought another house 3 years ago. So she's back settled in the house and she's loving it. So all
sounds
good.
like you almost had to pitch the business idea to your wife first of all before you did all this.
Hardest pitch, I bet.
Yes, certainly. But no, it was a good experience, and like I say, it keeps you focused. You know, when you put everything on the line, and there's no doubt about it, everything was on the line. It kind of keeps you focused. It makes you work hard. It keeps you competitive, and it just kept me driven. And you know what? I don't think I'd have it any other way.
Yeah.
We don't want external investors. You know, we want to kind of sort of make it succeed on our own efforts. You know, that's what we're doing, hopefully.
Yeah.
Take nothing for granted, but just give it everything, and what will be, will be.
Good.
I'm curious to know if there were any standout moments or lessons that you've learned along the way.
Yeah, like I say, starting a business is hard, you know. So for me personally, like, we talked about things like accounting, HR, QHSE, marketing, you know, dealing with insurances, dealing with websites, social media, travel. All these things are things that were kind of out with my skill set before we started, but things that I had to learn and learn pretty quick. And I'm still learning those now, there's no doubt about it, you know. But I enjoy that. Enjoy that, having to learn these things, you know. That's what keeps it interesting. Every day really is a school day.
You almost forget when you start a business, you've got all these other things, you know, payroll, HR, all marketing, all these different things that you need to suddenly quickly master and get your head around.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're responsible. So we, as a business, I've always said, you know, we're punching above our weight. And I like that. I like the fact that for a long time we were the smaller company. We were almost the underdog there, you know, and we're punching above our weight. But equally, I've got nothing but faith and trust in the team that we've got. We've built a really good team around us. We're a company of 26 people now. The way in which we've structured the business allows us to keep the team quite small. We're very nimble, we're very reactive. But I've always said, it's like, if we've got 26 people and you look at a family of 4, say, you know, I say to the team, there's the best part of 100 people relying on this work, and we have to get it right, because we're responsible for this team. We're responsible for their families, you know what I mean? So it's making sure we get it right. So, but surround yourself with good people. Everybody's on the same page. We're all looking for the same goal, and it keeps everyone motivated.
You certainly seem very cool and calm. Like you take all this massive pressure in your stride.
I like pressure. I think that's what keeps the mind focused, when you've got a bit of that pressure. And I do always say the job is stressful enough, life's stressful. The industry we work in can be stressful. Let's try and leave the stress at the door. We know there's going to be challenges. We've 7 years in or 8 years in now, I can confidently say if I work 250 days a year, I can confidently say 100 days of those are going to bring a lot of challenges. So we know they're coming. Expect them. So just deal with them in that non-stressed, constructive.
Don't worry about it before it happens type thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What a great outlook in life. I love that. So you mentioned 30 years of experience. You've seen it all. You've worked across multiple projects in well intervention. What do you think makes Wellvene stand out from the crowd?
I think our can-do attitude, we don't like to say no. We know our capabilities. We know what we're good at. We know what we can deliver. We don't take on things that we genuinely don't think we can deliver it. We won't take it on. But equally, we'll push our own boundaries and our own capabilities internally. So I am constantly driving the team. We've got a fantastic team of design engineers. There's no doubt about it. And I can see them almost cringe when I walk into their office because they're like, oh, what's he going to hit us with now? And I'm like, right, we've got this solution for this customer. We'll do it like this. But I think, to be honest, we laugh and joke internally about it, but I actually think they like that secretly, the fact that they're being challenged. And I'm all about being out our comfort zone. Every one of us, let's get out our comfort zone, but let's stay in our lane, but be out our comfort zone and challenge ourselves. And equally, each of the departments, like I say, I've got 3 amazing partners. We really, really do. And each one of my partners, they head up their own department. So one deals with production, one deals with engineering, one deals with operations. So it's fantastic that I've got the confidence that they've got their departments in order. I don't need to worry about their departments. That allows me to look at the business as a whole and where we're taking the business next, So I'm all about challenging each other internally to get the best out of each other for ourselves, for the business and for the customer.
And you mentioned that you've got a fairly small team, although there's 26 of you. It's quite a large team, but you mentioned you're nimble and you can react quite quickly to things. Does that set you apart from competitors as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I was saying, that kind of can-do attitude, we were very much a solutions-based company, So customer would have a problem, they would phone us, oh, we need this urgently, be it a Friday night, Saturday night, doesn't matter. We were the company to go to for that, and that's great. So I think that does set us apart from the rest in that sense, because we work in an aging basin in the North Sea. These wells are 40, 50 years old now, These are old wells and we're not intervening in these wells enough now. Yeah. So the reality is the operators don't truly know the condition of some of their wells. That's just fact, We're trying to drive more well intervention, but when they go into these wells that they've maybe not accessed in 5, 10, sometimes 20 years in some occasions, they don't know what to expect. Yeah. So they're going to come across these kind of challenges. Now, you can imagine when you've got a rig on location and you go into this well and you find that these rigs cost a lot of money per day. Yeah. You need that problem fixed as soon as possible. And I think that's where our can-do attitude, where, we understand your problem, we'll come up with a solution. And we were very much a solutions company for the first 5 years. That's hard work. Yeah. That is just hard work. Been there, So we are transitioning a bit more to more a product-based company, longer line of sight to what's coming at us. But we'll stay true to the ethos of the business. We are that solutions company and we're always going to offer that service.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I just can't even imagine the pressure because you're up against downtime. No one likes that. And, you obviously quick to react and making sure that that's kept to a minimum. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a story that I tell quite a lot. It sounds a bit like a Craig David song, that song when he talks about the days of the week, the reason being. So, but here's a good example. And are you going to sing? Are you about to sing?
Definitely not.
We haven't had that yet on the podcast.
You've got the worst singing voice ever. But a customer phoned me on a Saturday. He's like, we've got a problem. And this is the problem. Do you think you can fix it? I says, when do you need it? As soon as possible. Yeah. So long story short, we designed this tool on the Saturday. We manufactured it on the Sunday. Wow. We built it and tested it on the Monday and we shipped it on the Tuesday. Hence the Craig David reference there. But it was like, and they had a semi-sub offshore, high cost per day. They were basically shut down and it was and this was quite a tool that we designed for them there. So you get the drift. You get what I'm saying there, So it's, And then equally, so we're like, well, where do they go for that out with a company like Wellvene? Now, don't get me wrong, there's other companies out there that can certainly do what we do.
Yeah.
But do they have the passion and the desire to do it the way we do it? That's a different story.
Okay, impressive.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. So in terms of the kind of offshore industry in general, it's always evolving. How has Wellvene adapted to stay ahead of the game?
I like to think that we challenge the conventional. You know, I've always said that the way in which they currently do operations offshore is the same way they've been doing them for the last 40, 50 years, you know. So we look at existing technologies, existing methods, and then we say, right, how can we improve on those? You know, how can we take that technology and how can we take that into the latest safety requirements, operational requirements? How can we enhance that? I guess is what I'm saying, you know. So, and we pride ourselves in doing that, you know. Like I say, we stick to our lane. We know what we're good at. We're wells focused, and that's what we're about. But equally, I still don't think that people should be operating the way they were operating 40, 50 years ago. Things have advanced since then. So when we look at methods for existing operations, we look at them and say, right, well, how can we improve the operational efficiency? How can we improve safety related with that? How can we reduce costs? How can we reduce rig time? So when you go in with that mindset and that focus, when you're looking at those existing methods and how you can implement new technologies, you tend to find that you can come out with a better solution then.
You've mentioned solutions quite a lot, so let's kind of get into that a little bit more and hear a little bit more about that kind of thing. Innovation is obviously also a huge part of what you do. Would there be any recent examples of how Wellvene has solved a client's challenge, perhaps in a unique way, something that's a little bit out of the box?
Yeah, we recently launched a new system called our Interlift system. So for many years, again, back to what I was saying before there, for the last sort of 40, 50 years, you'll typically use a crane or a mast or an overhead hoist for lifting sort of certain apparatus, if you will. Now, they'll lift this apparatus and they'll work under suspended loads. And we looked at that and says, you know what? We're putting people into what's called the red zone, if you will. They're working under this suspended load. It doesn't need to be like that. So we took that away and we says, right, let's see if we can fix this problem. And we came up with our Interlift system. Now, this Interlift system it's a basic hydraulic piston system, if you will, not getting too technical, far from it. But ultimately, what it does is it minimises personnel within this red zone area. It minimises exposure time. It eliminates working under a suspended load and can minimise the need for a wireline mast. So we launched that sort of mid-2024. And already we're seeing a lot of kind of interest in the industry for it. So much so that one client came and says, we like that so much, we're going to take that and put it in a 4-year contract for you. It's like, wow, okay, great. We've got another system offshore just now. We only built 2 initially, but currently if we had another 5 in our portfolio, we'd have them out in jobs just now. So it's great just to try to change the mindset of the operators.
Sounds like you're just changing the whole landscape, you know, with innovations like this, because it's the safety aspect as well. You're changing how things are done.
Absolutely. I think there's constant room for improvement. If you go onto like a drill floor, for example, you know, you look at drill floors now, they have advanced so much in the last 10, 15 years. Like everything's fully automated now, you know. You've got this sort of Generation 7 drill floors where touch a button, nobody's in that area. But when we look at well intervention, we don't have that. So there's so much scope for improvement in the way in which we're doing things. So yeah, and for me, it's not just all about Wellvene. There's a lot of fantastic companies out there, certainly in the UK just now, doing some great things. But what for me is key is that we've got to look at opportunities to collaborate with these companies, because there's no competition's good. Competition keeps us all on our toes. But you know what? Let's just collaborate to get the better product to the market for the customer and make things as safe as we can.
So what about technology and data? They're obviously playing a bigger role in offshore well services at the moment. How do you see this shaping the industry in the next few years?
I think when you look at technology, you know, technology is always evolving and it's got to evolve to support the industry. You know, operators have got a challenge. With everything that's happening in the UK at this moment in time, you know, and some operators pulling out because of obviously tax levies and everything that goes with that, you know, they're always looking for opportunities and ways to bring smarter, more cost-effective, more efficient operations. So it's companies like Wellvene that have got to be trying to stay a step ahead, and bringing these technologies out there, but also demonstrating to the operators how these new technologies can encourage them to do more streamlined operations, how they can reduce their cost, their rig time, their personnel, etc. on the platform, because it's always a bun fight to get access to a platform to do this. If you look at the North Sea, I would say that a lot of drilling activity has stopped, a lot of new well delivery, there's less completions being put in the ground, etc. So operators have got to focus their attention on their existing well stock. And I touched on earlier, these are old wells, in the North Sea. But it's how do you maximise the economic recovery from those wells? How do we get in there? How do we squeeze every last bit of hydrocarbons out of them? So it's new technologies that's going to do that. Because if we're working to existing methods, it can be slow, it can be clunky, it can be very time consuming. New technologies are definitely the answer to getting out there and actually sort of extracting what we can from these existing wells.
Yeah. And imagine that just changes constantly.
Yes, absolutely. And you look around, and it's like there's some fantastic technologies out there, some amazing companies doing some great things out there, like we're very much a mechanical company. I mentioned about staying in our lane. We know what we're good at, but when we start looking at electronics and data and things like that, some of the new technologies that are coming in there, it's just, they're years ahead of where I thought they would be at this point, and it's great to see that. The challenge is a lot of customers don't like to be first. There's a saying like, we'll be first to be third, so it's just trying to get the operators on board and get their buy-in, so I guess at Wellvene we take a slightly different approach. We almost kind of go out to the operator before we've even developed the technology and almost ask them to be on board with us and say, right, this is the new technology that we want to bring to the market, but we want to adapt it to suit your requirements. Will you join us on this journey,
I think that leads really nicely on to this next question, Bronson. Wellvene prides itself on being client-focused. How do you build such strong relationships in such a competitive industry?
Yeah, relationships are everything. You know, it's about you've got to build that trust, and you've got. It's not only building the trust. I almost feel it can be quite easy to get the trust initially, but you've got to maintain that trust, and that's the hard bit. And that's what we do. We pride ourselves on that,
Following through on all those promises and making sure that everything's delivered as per expectations.
Absolutely. I used to think, for me personally, and looking back, I probably got this wrong. I used to think that build the technology and they will come, It's like, we've got this great technology. It's so much better than what the existing technology is. But the reality is you can have the best technology out there, but if you don't have the relationships and you don't have the kind of the conviction to get behind that technology and demonstrate that to the world, if you will, then they're just not going to chop your door. You've got to be out there sort of demonstrating that to them and building that relationships and building that trust. And for me, I'm all about trust and transparency with our customers. We're not perfect. We do get things wrong. Everybody does, but you're almost measured on how reactive you are as well, So I've always said internally, we don't shy away. If a customer's got a problem, we step forward. Equally, if one of our pieces of equipment is the root cause of that problem because it's failed offshore, we don't shy away. That's when we step up even more so, to be right. We understand it. We'll fix our own problem,
So trust.
Trust, for me, trust and transparency always.
Which leads us on nicely to Amy's question. You're too good at this. You're making it really easy for us.
So we've discussed trust, but what do you say the other core values that drive Wellvene's work?
Good question. Responsibility, we're all about taking responsibility for our actions, and ownership. I think as well, when you look at the industry and the challenges now, let's be honest, there's cutbacks, operators are restructuring, they're changing their organisation, they're cutting their numbers, they're trying to work more streamlined themselves. They've got the same challenges that everyone does. So what we're finding now as well, we've lost a lot of experience in the North Sea. We've lost a lot of experience. So operators are leaning more on the service companies like Wellvene to kind of support their operations. But it's almost saying, we'll come in and support you, but trust us that we will deliver on what you're asking. So take that load away from them, take ownership of what they've asked, and ultimately make sure you deliver on that. So for me, responsibility and ownership is key. And I also think another one that we really, really believe in is reinvestment. Wellvene, we're not all about kind of hitting that bottom line and taking it out. It's about constant reinvestment. We trust the market that we operate in. We want to be the best that we can be. We want to grow the company. So we've got to consistently reinvest in our people, the business, and new technologies. And we'll keep doing that.
Okay, very good. So although you do remain so cool, calm and collected, we know that the offshore industry can be quite demanding. How do you and the team just maintain motivation and balance? What keeps you grounded?
Honestly, we love what we do. You know, it does bring its challenges. I'd love to say it's all sunshine and roses all the time. It's not. It's challenging. It can be stressful. But like I says, we tell the team, leave your stress at the door, come in here, do your work and enjoy it. And we're passionate about what we do. The whole team are passionate about what we do. And again, it's about transparency. It's not just being transparent with the customer and building trust with the customer. First and foremost, you've got to have that internally.
Yeah.
We've got to trust each other. The team's got to trust in me, and I've got to be transparent with the team, you know. So yeah, it's about just getting their buy-in, but ultimately keeping everyone motivated and passionate about what we do. And to be honest, that's quite easy because the team that we've built around us, we all feed off each other, you know, and it's hard to be that person that's not passionate when you're surrounded by 20 people that are passionate, you know. So.
And what is it they say? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And we love what we do, don't we, Amy? In case Mike, the MD, is listening. And we work very hard and we still love what we do.
And you're very good at it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Perfect podcast guest today, I must say.
Yes, exactly. So, future plans. What is next for Wellvene? Are there any exciting projects or developments on the horizon?
Always. We have got a wish list of new technologies we'd love to get onto. You know what? We've been so fortunate as a business since 2017. We've saw year-on-year growth. We've saw new customers in new regions. It's just super exciting. It really, really is. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves either. You know, we want to keep it balanced, as you say. What's next for us as well? The world's a big place in so many ways, but it's also quite small, you know what I mean? It's so easily accessible now. So it's about saying, well, you know what? It's too easy to think, oh, we'll go target this region and we'll target that region. We're like, no. So we kind of had a bit of a refocus at the tail end of last year and says, right, what does 2025 look like for us, you know? So UK is absolutely one, a region that we're fully committed to, and we want to keep offering our services here. There's no doubt about it. But in terms of the other regions, as I mentioned, the UK, Middle East, Norway, Malaysia, Australia, that's the 5 regions we're working in. So it's about being the best that we can be in those regions. How do we just maintain what we're doing and then build on that and grow within each of these regions to really build that trust and transparency with the customers that we've got there. So that's the future for us, is just really honing in on those regions, reinvesting in those regions and being the best that we can be in those areas.
And where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth in the industry?
For me, I would say there's 2 places. Unfortunately, as sad as it is, plug and abandonment and decommissioning is very much happening on our doorstep. And it's quite sad, having grown up in the North Sea. And when I look back at some of the platforms and the assets that I worked offshore on, it's like, you know, and then these rigs are not there anymore. You know, they've been abandoned, and it's actually quite sad when you think about a lot of the good times. And because
they're very old assets, is it the lifespan of them, or is it as well as that drilling's becoming less and less in the North Sea? It's
just, you know what, just the economics just don't stack up now, you know. So when you look at certain platforms that used to be in the North Sea that are no longer there because they've been abandoned, they've extracted the hydrocarbons that they can from them. And don't get me wrong, there've been some great producing platforms out there over the years. But yeah, when you just stack up the economics, it just doesn't make sense to keep sort of trying to produce what you can from these platforms. So ultimately, everyone kind of comes to the end of the day at some point. And so like I was saying, for me, plug and abandonment, decommissioning, because there's still a lot of wells in the North Sea that are going to have to be abandoned and rigs taken away. So there's a good 20, 30 years of work in the North Sea alone. Just
on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
And then the renewables, you know. You've heard a lot of transition over the last 4 or 5 years, you know. We need a renewable energy. It's happening. It's going to happen, you know. And it's quite exciting to see some of these sort of smaller companies starting to sort of pave the way in the renewable energy, whatever that may look like, you know. So I think certainly for companies like Wellvene, we've got to do what we do just now, but have one eye in the future and say, well, do we potentially play a part in that? And what does that look like, you know? So.
Okay. Exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have spoken about Wellvene and your life at Wellvene, but let's chat about you. You're quite involved in the third sector. Can you tell us a little bit more about your charity involvement?
Yeah, so I have the pleasure of being involved with North Sound One's Cash for Kids.
Yeah.
I'm a board member with them, and I've been involved now for about a little over 2 years.
Okay.
I must say a huge shout out to Jamie Smith, charity manager, and Megan Deans, who's the fundraising executive. They are both fantastic, and just watching their passion and commitment for what they do is fantastic.
I know
really
Jamie really well, having worked at North Sound in the past. So and the great work that Cash for Kids does as well.
Absolutely,
yeah, incredible.
And I've got to be honest, it was a bit of an eye opener for me sort of joining Cash for Kids, because myself, along with a lot of other people, you think Cash for Kids, you think, Mission Christmas or the Coat Appeal, and that's really what you think Cash for Kids is about.
They're the big campaigns that you hear more about, I guess.
Absolutely, and what I didn't realise is everything else they do throughout the year, and the amazing causes that they support. So, perfect example. After I leave this podcast, I'm actually heading to a primary school up in Peterhead. They've got an application in for a grant, if you will, for additional support needs. They're looking for some gym equipment, etc. So what we're doing now is taking a slightly different approach, where some of the board members are actually going to meet the people behind the applications. But again, I would never have thought that Cash for Kids would be supporting gym equipment for a new school. You know, so it's great to see that. And you get a chance to meet the kids and understand from their perspective the challenges that they're facing, etc. So I love being involved. I really, really do.
It's really important work.
Yeah. It is. It really is, And the sad thing is, though, when you look back at like last year's Mission Christmas and Winter Warmer Appeal, the reality is we just didn't manage to achieve what we set out to. We couldn't, I think, if I remember the numbers correctly, the Winter Warmer Appeal, we supported 2,637 children,
Which almost kind of implies that there's a greater need than we maybe expect.
Absolutely, 100%. We had just shy of 3,200 applications in total, and we only managed to support 2,637. So there you go, a shortfall of nearly 600, and hey, let's be honest, it's heartbreaking to think that there's nearly 600 kids who are not getting the hat or the scarf or the gloves or the jacket that they need. It's about understanding what can we do to make sure that we don't fall short again. And the reality is, when the challenges in Aberdeen just now, we all want to remain upbeat and optimistic. Of course we did. But the reality is, Cash for Kids has relied a lot on corporate sort of support and sponsorship over the years. Last year, we saw a huge shift. There was less corporate support and more sort of individual support, which was great. The public in Aberdeen really stepped up for both of those causes, So, but you don't want to put that pressure on them because cost of living crisis, everything's happening. So it's about kind of saying this year, how do we plan for that now? So that's why me personally, I want to be a bit more involved with Cash for Kids this year and start looking at 6, 9, 12 months ahead and working closely with Jamie and Megan and the rest of the board to make sure that we don't fall short again, because we can't.
Well, there we go. And if you're listening and you want to donate to Cash for Kids, you can look them up online and do your bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it'll be amazing.
Great to hear about your charity involvements there. You've also mentioned to us that your son actually works at Wellvene. How do you guys get along working in the workplace? Now, you've got to be truthful here. Are you a tough boss?
You know what? I genuinely don't have much involvement with him on a day-to-day, which is maybe a good thing. But no, you know what? He's a fantastic kid. He's 24 now, so he's not really a kid. But we get on so well, and I'm so proud of him. It's he was unsure what he wanted to do. So back in 2018, 2019, he was looking to join the army. And unfortunately, he had an injury or sustained an injury when we were snowboarding, and he fractured a couple of vertebrae in his back. So he's fine. He's absolutely fine. He's fully recovered from that. But he spent about 6 months in a back brace, and that kind of that changed his dream of going into the army. So he kind of was a wee bit in limbo for about a year. Tried to appeal it, but the army were quite strict.
So fitness tests and things like that.
Absolutely, and a back injury is just a no-no. So he wasn't sure what to do, so he's always been quite creative, hands-on, enjoyed just drawing and building things and that. And I thought, I think you've got the makings of a design engineer. I really do. So I says, why don't you come into Wellvene, give it a go? We're ready for a trainee at the time. He's been with us now 3 years, and he's absolutely smashing out the park. He's doing so well, and he's just really got a new passion for it. So he's also doing distant learning. He's at uni doing a degree in design and mechanical engineering, which is great. And then one of the biggest things that surprised me was he bought an old Land Rover, a 1994 Land Rover or whatever, and he's completely stripped the engine, the gearbox, the clutch, and he's in about these manuals and he's rebuilding everything from scratch. And I'm just thinking, fantastic.
Yeah.
So as a dad, super, super proud to watch him do that and start to kind of really sort of build his path in life, if you will, you know. So,
and there's real resilience there, because obviously he had a path that he wanted to go down with the army, and obviously the accident changed all that, but he's made a real success of what he's doing with you at Wellvene.
Yeah, absolutely,
Brilliant.
absolutely. So no, it's exciting. It's exciting to see. It's exciting to see him grow and sort of flourish in his own right. So yeah.
That's your work life, and you're obviously helping the charity. That must take up a lot of your time. So what does downtime look like? What do you do, Bronson? What do you like doing when you're not working?
Downtime?
What's that?
What's that? Exactly. So right now I'm actually doing a lot of running. So I says to my son, so I'm 40, I wait to turn 48. So I says to my son last year, I says, look, I'm 48, I'm relatively fit. I says, why don't we plan something once a year, a big event, you know? So I had the pleasure of doing Kilimanjaro back in 2014 with a group of friends that I worked with, and it was amazing. One of the best experiences of my life. And you know what? Last year, I actually bumped into one of the ladies who organised it, and we just reminisced for about an hour just on the whole experience. And it got me thinking, you know what? Here's someone I've not seen in years, and we just bump into each other and we're reminiscing. And I just thought, so good. We made so much. We do a lot of amazing things day to day in our life, but when you do big experiences like that, they're the ones that really sort of stick with you. So I says to my son last year, I says, look, up until I'm about 55, let's try and pick a big experience each year. Let's do something together, because I want him to look back and think, yeah, you know what, I did that with my dad, you know, when I'm older. I want to look back and think. So I says, what do you fancy doing? He says, I'd love to do the Marathon des Sables. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Marathon des Sables, are you?
I'm not.
Is this in a desert?
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, because Bronson, a normal marathon is obviously not difficult enough. Where does this take place?
So it takes place in Morocco. So we fly into Morocco. It's in the Sahara Desert, and we spend 7 days in the desert. So we have our backpacks on. We have all our own supplies in there. All your food's in the backpack, your clothes, whatever you're taking, you're completely self-sufficient for the week. The only thing that they supply you with water, and call it your tent, if you will.
Yeah.
So you're self-sufficient for the week. And then basically we do the best part of 6 days, 6 stages. I think we do a marathon, then a double marathon, then a marathon, and then a little over half a marathon.
Stop it. Oh my God.
In temperatures between 40 and 50 degrees. So
this is...
Wow.
I love endurance sports. I've done a little bit of running. I've done a couple of ultras. I've never done back-to-back marathons in a desert.
Crazy.
How are you training for it? Tell us. Where are you running? What distances are you running?
Well, it's quite hard in Aberdeen, obviously, to acclimatise to that kind of heat, you know. So there's a lot of hot baths and saunas. And ideally, it would have been good if we could have got into a heat chamber, but they're quite limited in the UK. So we're struggling there. So we really are just trying to get the miles under our belt. So Jaden's part of a running club. My son's called Jaden. He's part of the Green Running Club in Aberdeen. And he's, you know what, that's just given him a real kind of zest for running. He loves it. And he's been doing that now, I'm going to say, best part of 2 years, and he's built up some really good friendships down there. So with that hence why he chose to do a running event. So we've basically just been going running together. We've been sort of doing a bit of hiking together, you know, we've kind of weighted training, backpacks on, etc. So we're probably averaging about 60, 70 kilometres a week running just now. And that's probably been like that for probably about the last 9 months. So feeling as fit as I can be.
Wow. You've got the miles in.
Yeah.
Exciting. Oh, well, look, we wish you all the best for that.
Thank you.
We want you to come back and report back and tell us how that goes.
Have a nice tan as well.
Thank you.
At least.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's right, Amy. They're doing it for the suntan.
But let's just say, my wife was more supportive when we started Wellvene than she is in me doing this, because she's looking at me like, really? You're really going to do that? You know, so, and I should mention as well, so we're doing that for a charity called Walk Once More. It was Jaden, it was his chosen charity, and they support people sort of rehabilitation, people that have sustained or suffered kind of sort of spinal cord injuries and stuff. So really good charity who do amazing things. So looking forward to it.
All the best. Right. Are you ready for, it's my favourite part of the podcast. Maybe not Amy's as much.
I like this part of the podcast. I just don't like the sound effect. I think we need to get that clear.
Bronson, it is time for Inspiration Corner.
See what I mean? Like, it's just too much.
I like it.
Thank you. You know what? That's 2 guests in a row that said they've liked it. So there we go. Right. This is where we got to ask you to shuffle into the corner.
Shimmy, shimmy.
Excellent. And this is where we like to ask our guests to perhaps share either a piece of advice or maybe a quote that perhaps has inspired you on your journey. What would you like to tell us?
Okay. Well, I've kind of got 4 quotes, so I've got 2 that I kind of live by from a work perspective, and 2 in the personal front. I say quotes, just sayings myself and my wife got ones at work. So pretty much since I started offshore, let's focus on the work-related ones. From the day I arrived offshore, there was a quote that I heard time and time again, and it was, plan the work and work the plan. And I really, really like that. I'd heard it for 20 years offshore, you know what I mean? It's like, plan the work and work the plan. And
like
see,
that.
when you do, when you really think, I'm away to do this task, right? Whatever that task may look like, and you plan it, and you really plan it, the execution of that task is so much easier. Because I've had examples where I haven't planned it right, and actually the outcome's just been nowhere near what it should have been, you know?
Yeah.
So I really bought into that, and I genuinely believe the more you do that, the better the outcome. So plan the work and work the plan is one. And certainly one that we've kind of sort of brought into Wellvene over the last few months is, what gets measured gets managed, you know. As a business, my role is to look at the business as a whole, and I've always done that. But what I've probably taken my eye off the ball a wee bit with is measuring the individual regions, you know, measuring new technologies.
Okay.
Is it really, are they taking off? Do they need more investment? Do they need adjusted, amended in whatever way, you know? So what we're trying to do now is, rather than sort of just measure the business as a whole, break it down into segments and start really measuring the individual regions, not the people within it, but understand if the people within it are getting what they need to kind of capitalise and thrive on the opportunities are there, and then really start sort of measuring the new technologies that we're bringing. Is there actually a market for these? Because it's one thing me saying, it's great, we've got this new technology, but does the market actually need that new technology? So what gets measured gets managed is certainly something that we within Wellvene are all kind of sort of starting to get behind a bit more now as well.
These are useful insights, and you have 2 from your personal life as well. We're getting spoiled today.
So this is more from my wife. So my wife's called Dawn, amazing woman.
Okay, hi Dawn,
absolutely.
if you're listening, thank you for letting Bronson come on the podcast and for selling your house that time.
Absolutely, thank you. So my wife, she goes to the gym. She loves the gym. So she keeps me motivated from a fitness level as well, you know. So she's very much, she tells me the only workout you regret is the one that you don't do.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know what? It's so true.
Let's injure yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've all been there where we're like, really, I can't be bothered working out. I can't be bothered working out. I can't be bothered with that run today. But you do it, and then the minute you finish it, you're like, wow, what was I even thinking? So glad I did that. So really buy into that.
You never finish a run or a workout and think to yourself, I wish I didn't do that. You're always buzzing from it.
Absolutely.
And you need to remind yourself of that on those days where it's raining outside and you've got to go and do a 5-mile run or whatever.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then the other one she says to me a lot, and I repeat back to her, is you don't stop doing things because you get old because you stop doing things.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know what? And I'd really try to kind of get that. And I guess what I could say to that, and there's so much truth in that, because I go back to last year before I started doing all this running. I was probably the unfittest I'd ever been in my life this time last year. And then I started running, and I'm probably the fittest I've been in the last 15 years.
Wow,
you know, so it's like, you don't stop doing things because you get old because you stop doing things. And I love seeing older people who are just smashing out the park and just like getting on.
Frank Gilfeather on here, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect example.
He was saying the same thing.
I listened to his podcast, and did I hear, was he 78? Is that right?
79 now, yeah.
Amazing. And I've saw his videos of him boxing and how fit does he look, and it's just like 79. If I'm like that at 79, I will be absolutely buzzing.
Bronson, thank you so much. There were some great quotes and insights. Good. Thank you for bringing that into, wait for it, Inspiration Corner. Right, we're almost getting to the end of the podcast. But before we finish up, there's another segment that we like to call This or That. It's a round of quick fire questions where we're going to put you under pressure. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready, yes.
Amy, you can kick us off.
Offshore sunrise or offshore sunset?
Sunrise. I'm a morning person. I like sunrise. New day, new beginnings, all that stuff. Yeah, I like a sunrise. And I've saw some beautiful sunrises offshore. I have to say that. Some amazing sunrises. Yep, sunrise.
A week offshore or a week off-grid?
Oh, off-grid all day long. I've saw too many rigs in my time. Off-grid, please. Thank you. Yeah.
So early morning meetings or late night problem solving?
Let's go early morning meetings, yeah. Cup of coffee, round the table, start the day, yeah.
A broken phone signal or a broken coffee machine?
Oh, phone signal, you can have it. Take my phone. Take it.
But not your coffee.
Yeah, don't touch that. Safety briefing or surprise fire drill?
Safety briefing, you know. I've lost count of how many fire drills where I've been on night shift working and the fire drills happen during the day and you're out your bed. So yeah, safety briefing.
Would you rather always speak in rhymes or only be able to whisper?
Whisper all day long.
Okay,
Keep it chill. Keep it chill.
Okay.
Love it. Unlimited free flights or unlimited free meals at restaurants?
Unlimited free meals.
Oh, really?
Would you believe if I told you that I do not like flying?
Really? Do you not?
How silly does this sound? I almost have a wee bit of fear of flying.
No.
And I worked it out one day. I think I've had over 500 helicopter rides in my time. I know. And aeroplanes, I'd rather not. I do it because I have to do it. But I don't enjoy the experience. So, but yeah.
We'll do a couple more. Be stuck in an elevator with a talkative stranger.
Pete.
Or a completely silent one.
Silent. Thank you.
Right, last one, Amy, go on.
Dogs or cats?
Oh, dogs. Yeah. Dogs. You know what? I have to just add, my wife, amazing. Last year, maybe not so, when I came home with a surprise puppy.
Did you?
Yeah, so that never went down too well.
I'd love that.
But
What kind of dog?
she's a sprocker.
Cute.
Bella.
Full of energy.
Oh my word, so
Good for
much
your
energy.
runs? Does she go running with
she
you?
does go running. Yeah,
Wow.
she's really, she enjoys it. So dogs all day long for me.
Definitely.
All right, Bronson, hey, we're almost at the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us a behind-the-scenes look at Wellvene and also your life. For anyone who is listening who may want to learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah, so Wellvene's based in Dice. Please, doors always open and the kettle's always on, as we say. We really encourage people to come out and see us. So please do. And you'll find me there most likely or down the beach running.
And your website address?
Website is www.wellvene.com.
There we go.
Perfect. So as always, if you'd like to know more about anything we've discussed, you can drop us a line. You can find us on Instagram at Murrinsgill, and you can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn and online.
And you can also send us a text directly from your podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or wherever. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit subscribe. That way, you'll be notified when the next episode drops. We will see you next time. Thanks again to Bronson for joining us today.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.